Asher and Pipeman on W4CY Radio.
Wake up, America! It's time for the Adventures of Pipeman on W4CY.com, West Palm Beach's #1 internet radio station. Here's your host, the Pipeman.
This is the Pipeman here on the Adventures of Pipeman W4CY Radio, and I'm here with our next guest. Man, they have some killer music, and I totally dig their newest video that you're going to have to check out. It's this one right behind me, but that's just the album cover. The video's badass. So let's welcome to the show Gene from Bullets and Octane. How are you?
Ooh, hey, here we are, man.
Here we are, and you know, we were just having a conversation before going on the interview about my days in LA and your days arriving to LA, and you know, there's a lot of stories I wish I could share with you from the '80s Sunset Strip, but I don't remember any of them.
That you don't want to go to jail either, right? So I pretty much showed up like right when you were nursing your decade of hangover, right?
Yeah, totally. Have you ever seen the meme? Okay, there's this meme of the 80s rock star and the rock star today. Have you ever seen that meme?
Hold on. Oh, shit. Lost you. We're back.
Okay. No, I have not seen that. So, okay, so it's so funny because it shows the 80s rock star, and the 80s rock star is lying on the ground, guitar in hand, passed out, and Jack Daniels in the other hand, a ball of Jack Daniels in the other hand. And today's rock star is sitting at a table with the guitar on his lap and typing into a computer.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, it's funny you talked about, we were talking a little bit about, the Motley Crue days and stuff like that. I remember right before Bullets kind of had a little bit of a break somewhat in the middle 2000s, I was working at a Domino's Pizza, being a driver in the daytime. And all of a sudden, like, things just kind of started happening. And I remember, I don't know how they found me, but people started calling the restaurant. So I remember it was just me and some kid manager, of course. And that's the way it was. Always a 17-year-old manager running, the musician guy in his 20s or something. And he'd be like, hey, man, phone. And it would be record labels and different things. And one time, I remember I'm wearing the outfit. I'm folding boxes, the apron and everything, dude. It was just so humbling. Let's just use that word. And I remember it's like, you got a phone call, man. I'm like, okay, who is it? Nikki Sixx is on the phone. And I'm like, what is going, how? Like, well, how did that even come to be? So I'm like, hello? And, he was like, hey, man, I heard your song Pirates. It's really great. I'd like to maybe possibly use it for Brides of Destruction or something. It was something along those lines. And it just, all these things started happening. And it was happening really, really fast and really, really strange. And I remember, anyway, long story, I went to West Hollywood and was going up an escalator standing next to him to have a meeting. And he looked at me with all my tattoos and he's like, man, what are you going to do if this doesn't work? And I remember, I mean, literally, the way I put that is like this, man. It's like it's like a kid tucking in his baby blanket into his shirt, standing on the edge of a building next to Superman. And Superman's like, you ready to jump? And then he looks at you and goes, what if the cape doesn't open, Are you what are you going to do? And so to me, it's like, what are you talking about? Like, this is partially your fault. The reason why I'm all tattooed and I moved out here, aren't we going to ride Harleys and go to the strip club together? Aren't we going to girls the shit out of this? Come on, man. And so just really eye-opening moments along the way of like, fuck, this is kind of real. And when your heroes, if you will, or whatever you want to call it, are kind of telling you like, this might not happen. I'm thinking like, man, I don't know. Like, I've watched so many Headbangers Ball things that it has to happen, right? I mean, this is what happens. Because you never hear the story of the people who don't make it. Why would you, So
no, you wouldn't.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of bands from my time at the Sunset Strip that I love that who knows? There's one band in particular. It's so funny that I was really close friends with. I'd roadied their stuff and all that, and I even knocked my teeth out at their show.
Oh
And
God.
they were gone for like ever. And then I get this email like several months ago about this band releasing their first album in like 30 some odd years. And can you
Wow.
interview them? And it was that band. And I was
No
like,
way.
wow. And then he got on with me. I'm like, I don't know if you'll remember me because, it's kind of hard from those days to remember people, but
Yeah.
I'm the one that knocked my teeth out at your show. He's like, oh my God, I always wondered what happened to you. And like, I felt so bad. And like, you're like, it was great too, because you tell your kids stuff and they don't believe you. Like, and so I've
Yeah.
told my kids a bunch of stories from back then, and it's like they're probably thinking in their head, yeah, right, Dad. And I told them I'm like an legend in LA metal because I ended this band's show by knocking my teeth off diving off a Marshall stack. And he says literally in the interview, without it being prompted, he's like, yeah, man, you're like the most tragic thing that ever happened to LA metal ever. And I was like, thanks. Now I can play this for my kids and they know I'm not full of shit.
Not on everything, anyway.
Right? Exactly. Imagine being proud of the fact that you're a legend for knocking your teeth out for being an idiot.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I can't even imagine what you experienced, man. Because I have my own little weird memories of, like we'd go up there when we first moved here, and there was that Steel Panther, obviously, but they were called Metal Shop, and they were playing at the Viper Room every Monday night, and that was, like I said, we arrived a little late to the party, as I said earlier to you, and I just remember like all these things, like Chad Smith from Red Hot Chili Peppers would like get up there. Probably had some drinks, and he threw the snare drum, and they were freaking out at the end of the show when the curtains closed at the Viper Room. They always had the curtains closing, and I hear the band like, "Why'd you let him throw the snare? I didn't let him, man. He just threw the snare." It was always something. And just sitting on that little wall ledge outside the liquor store next door, right? And I'm just, scared and young, and everything's just fucking insane. And all of a sudden, there's this goth guy in glasses at night. It's midnight. It's black as shit out. He's got glasses on, his hair, and we're just talking. And I've never been good at a poker face in rock and roll. I've always just been a nerdy kind of like, yeah, what's up? Hey, let's talk about our feelings. And
Right?
yeah, and I remember this dude, and he was, I'm like, you play in a band too? And he's like, yeah, my name is Tammy, man. I got this band, Faster Pussycat or something. And I'm just like, what are you talking about? How's this?
Right?
Why are you sitting right here? So out there, it's just like random stuff. You just like walk around, and all of a sudden there's Slim Jim Phantom, who's got the Cat Club at the time across the way, and it's
Yep.
like, holy shit, it's a fucking stray cat. There's a stray cat, a literal stray cat right here. Like, so it's just so mind-blowing, the different things that can happen that are just everyday stuff that we only dreamed about back in Missouri. Like, it was just stuff of legends. You couldn't watch shit on your computer, so it's like every
Right.
Saturday I'd be at my neighbor's house who had cable, and we would sit there and watch Headbangers Ball and Saturday Night Live, and just lose ourselves into the TV, and just, you wouldn't even blink because you can't rewind it, so you really
No.
had to soak it in, man. And so to hear that you got to actually be around most of the stuff that we only got to wonder about, it's real, so cool.
Oh yeah, I have so many stories of stuff like, okay, check this out. I was at a Slayer show and Striper opened for Slayer, if you can imagine. Okay.
What?
And so I'm right up at the stage and I'm a total Slayer fan, okay, and hated Striper, because it got, that was the shitty part about LA back then, is you had so many gatekeepers, and like you could, like when I started listening to Slayer and Metallica and stuff, my friends were like, we need to burn your Motley Crue shit. You can't be having that shit,
Right.
and it was just stupid, but it is what it is. So
Yeah.
it was funny. I was at the stage, and the guitarist for Striper, he bends over, and his cross is hanging down in my face. And so I grabbed it and I flipped it upside down.
Oh, Kerry King would be so proud. Kerry
I
King
know,
would be so
right?
proud.
I know, right? Oh my God, it was funny. And then
Man,
I was here's a good story. You ready for this? This is you're gonna shit on this one. I've said this one a lot of times because it's just such a great story. I was seeing this band. They were playing their first gig ever, like first like real gig ever, and they were really freaking good. And there were like 25 of us to see them. And the guitarist of the band comes down after the gig because this is what happened in LA. After the band played, they'd come interact with you. You'd walk with them up to the Rainbow. Like
yeah,
I go to Rainbow now. I'm like, how the hell did I get in there at 15 years old? Oh, that's
yeah.
right. I was walking in with Motley Crue. You know, and and uh,
Unbelievable, dude.
and so they basically this guy said gives me his business card, a business card, and it
Ugh,
said on it, are you ready for this? Metallica power metal Dave Mustaine.
no fucking way, dude.
Yeah. There wasn't even a thrash metal yet. So Metallica was power metal for like a minute. And Dave is sitting there talking to me and handing me his business card. I wish I had it today.
I
Everybody
was
goes, "Do you
gonna
have
say,
it?" I'm like,
ugh,
"No, I didn't think it meant it. I was fucking 15 years old or probably somewhere around there. Like, I thought, what the fuck is this bullshit? I probably threw it in the garbage,
yeah.
you know?
That,
And it's like, damn, I would want to have that.
oh man, that would be amazing to have that today. Yeah. Are you there? We got audio here. Hello.
Hello, hear me now?
We're back.
All right. My engineer will edit that out. I don't know what happened there.
Yeah.
So,
No.
yeah, I mean, it blew my mind because it's like, okay, he gets off the stage. I don't think he's anybody. He hands me his business card. I'm like, what the hell is this? I'm just here for a show. And then, like, I think nowadays, I'd like to interview Dave and have that business card and like just pull it out and hand it to him and say, "Do you
Oh
remember giving me this?" But I can't do that, you know. But that would have
no.
been a cool ass thing, you know.
Yeah. I mean, if you remember the details of it, maybe you can make a mock one up just for sentimental reasons to, be like, this is something like this.
Oh, he'll remember for sure because it's funny what these dudes do remember. Like I was good friends with Armored Saint, like really good friends with them. I was their first merch company actually. Me and my bro, they didn't have shirts or pins. We're like, "Can we make shirts and pins and sell them at your show? We'll give you 50%." They're like, "Sure." We were like 15 years old. So Joey, the bassist, and I were talking like a couple years ago about this, and he even informed me of something I never knew. And he goes, "Yeah, you know that picture of Lars with a guitar wearing an Armored Saint shirt?" I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "That's your shirt." And he
No
still has
way.
it. And he goes, "And he still has it." I'm like, "Really? I don't even have one anymore." He goes, "Neither do I."
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of that. I've never really been good at collecting all the stuff from all the years. I moved so much and had such a crazy life that
Same.
it was just like, fuck it, I don't care. And they're like, why don't you should have that stuff to hang up? They're trophies. And I'm like, I remember all the shit, man. It's all good. But I realize that not for me, but for story purposes or later on down the line, it's like there's no proof of it other than my mouth, like telling
Exactly.
random
We were
stories.
talking about that before the show. It's like we didn't have social media, we didn't have the internet. There was no proof of all the shenanigans that were going on. Thank God, though. You know.
Right. Yeah,
But
I know that's kind of the sacrifice, isn't it? So you got
yeah,
away with things and stuff like that, but at the same time, you have zero to show for it.
yeah,
You
right.
know, I was going to tell you too, it's interesting how that stuff traveled along. I still actually have problems with it to this day with writing songs and music and picking albums and stuff is that whole policing thing you mentioned slightly of the judgments between because even like back in when I was in sixth grade and playing Slayer covers at a church called St. Jude, and I remember I took my dad's two jazz drum kits and smashed them together to make a double bass drum set. You know what I mean? So it would be like Dave Lombardo and all that stuff. And I remember this is how much it goes. I mean, I'm from a small little town out of St. Louis, basically, and all the metal kids were sitting on the walls at the church when we were playing these songs. And I remember even they were like, someone played a little Metallica riff, and they were like, "Fuck Metallica, Megadeth." And it's like, man, it traveled so far even to into a small town of like that
Right?
weird thing of if you liked, you could like a bunch of the right bands, but if you happen to like one of the wrong bands, you instantly were not in the circle. You know, it had to be
Yeah.
Exodus and Anthrax and Slayer and like that whole thing. But if you liked something like you said, like Motley Crue was too hair metal, Metallica cut all their hair off, and so they were fucking out. You know, like all these
Right.
ridiculous rules that we had to follow. And I still kind of do that today. It's a huge battle within, man, of like, you know, everyone kind of knows us as a heavy band in the UK and Sweden, and I tend to, as I get older, write a little bit more of some emotional shit. That's why you see all these cats that are from punk rock and stuff. All of a sudden, they're having acoustic and they're doing folk and stuff, and they're doing that whole alt rock type thing. I get it, man. Like your testosterone changes, possibly. Maybe it's a little bit more into the psychosis of it, but you just don't feel as pissed off. And I don't really feel like writing about skulls and you know, like stupid shit. Like maybe it's just a young tribal energy of just, you know, being angry, but I have more important shit to say, and sometimes playing heavy metal doesn't really fulfill my personal thing. But then I realize there's people on the other side of the hat. Like, for example, let's talk about like Rob Zombie, right? That guy knows who he is. He does yoga, he eats his tofu, he's very focused from what I hear in that kind of way. So I can't imagine that he goes out on his patio with his tea in the morning and sits there and goes, yeah, I'm a super beast. Yeah, you know, he just he knows who, like, that's his product. He makes movies and horror films and shit, so he could put that hat on and take it off, take it or leave it. The guy's on stage, he walks off stage, he's somebody else. And I think that's a weird journey along the way, especially when you're at a level that I'm at, where I'm not a big band, I'm not a big artist, so I'm still at the proving. I have to always prove myself. I don't just walk on stage and no matter what I fucking do, shit into a microphone and people are gonna love it. And so it's like I'm constantly still doing that. I remember touring with bands like CKY and a lot of old school punk bands, Guttermouth and stuff like that, where those fans were instantly, I'd be in Texas and it's a full crowd and it's just me and like three other guys or whatever. And it would be every day I have to fight you. I have to fucking fight you to get you to do it. And so that meant the songs had to be faster. They had to be louder. I couldn't have a break in between to let anybody get a fucking word in to get the crowd riled up against us. And when you get older, it's like I'm sick of fighting for shit like that. It's like it should be a thing where I could slip in different types of songs, different types of things at the age that I'm at and have everybody kind of dig it. It keeps you alive, it keeps you young, but there's just some times where you see folded arms and you're like, all right, let me fucking win you over. God damn, how long have I been doing this? You know?
Right. Well, I love all that you're saying there. I think the listeners need to hear that because it's so true in so many ways. First of all, the angst you have as a teenager, it's kind of hard to have that angst at later stages. And listen, as a musician, like you want to evolve and get better at your craft. The reason you start a punk rock band is because you don't know how to fucking play the thing. You know, so once you learn, it's like even Hetfield has said it. He hates that. He said it's funny. He says they play Seek and Destroy at the San Jose Sharks games, and he hates that they play the old version because he said I didn't even know how to sing. Like he wants them to play the version where he actually knows how to sing, you know, and people don't see the artist's point of view. And then funny, I was interviewing Joe from the Vandals and he goes, and we're kind of friends. So he knows I wouldn't ask this question. So he brought it up in the interview because everybody asked. He goes, and hey, Pipe Man, don't ask me when the Vandals are coming out with new songs because nobody wants to hear a 50-year-old writing punk rock songs.
Right.
You know,
I get that, man. There's a lot of bands that I see where, I mean, Metallica's a good example of that as well. It's like I've seen these things, and it's cool that they kind of get ahead of it, get in front of it, where they'll go, "You guys want to hear something new? Hey, you want to hear something old? Ah, you know." And it's like, do we, you know, why even at this point? I mean, unless it's just completely, merely and purely for yourself, you are making the next album. At this point, if you're any of those bands, like, fuck it, man. Go out, play Master of Puppets, give them the fucking Ride the Lightning, give them all that shit. Maybe not do the weird snare drum album, right? and just get on with the show and say fuck it. You know, I don't know.
Oh yeah, no doubt. Like me, I went to their first show ever, so I'm a Kill 'Em All fan, and it's like when Black came out, I was like, fuck those posers. I'm never listening to them again. But I still love them to this day. Like that. That was that young idiot saying
Yeah.
that. You know, it's
I completely get it, man. I was in a weird spot, bro. I was in like a very weird thing. My parents are both like, jazz musicians. So my dad was a big band jazz guy. He taught Dave Weckl how to play drums, from an early age. I was named Gene from Gene Krupa, Louis from Louis
nice.
Belson, these, big band drummers. So I had that element. Then the people next door listened to classic rock. And then my friends listened to punk rock. And my brother was into butt rock. So I had all these different elements. And that's why when people ask me like the most basic shit in interviews about like, what's your favorite album? What's your favorite this? And I'm like, I don't really have that. I do like top 40 music, and I do like catchy fucking songs, and I like it across the board, man. I listen to everything. Like I can't imagine what Bullets would sound like if I wasn't influenced by the early Brian Setzer orchestra stuff. Not so much the jump jive and whale shit, but it's like those elements come in. And when I worked with Paige Hamilton from Helmet, he produced one of our albums. We like hit it off instantly because I was looking at him like, I remember Helmet from the 90s. This is going to be great. I love that shit. And I didn't know he was a jazzer, So all of a sudden he heard my simple little rock songs that were pretty shitty, but he heard these weird jazz changes that I didn't fucking know that they were there, but he did, and he helped kind of pull that stuff out. So there's a lot of shit that I don't even realize. I'll be in the dentist office, man, and whatever that music is they pipe in at in elevators and dentist office, that weird soft rock Chicago and Steely Dan and like that weird thing, whatever that is, that's the shit that I subconsciously stole a lot from for Bullets. I'd be in there getting drilled on, and all of a sudden I'd hear like, I keep forgetting we're not in love anymore, and I'm like hearing a bridge, and I go, oh my God, on my heavy metal song, I totally stole the horn section for a lead guitar section.
Right.
So I love that about music. And you mentioned earlier, like we were talking about Slayer, I always use them as an example, man, because one thing that pisses me off about like the art thing, I get it. It's music business, second word business. I get that argument. But I imagine music being like this art palette. You have all these paints on your thing, but you're stuck in metal. Let's say metal, Kerry King, metal's red and yellow, and your whole life, red and yellow, red and yellow. And one day you look down and you go, man, a hint of turquoise would really set this fucking painting off. And I just kind of find it like, why the fuck don't we do that? I remember one of my guitar tech friends worked for Slayer and Guns N' Roses, and I had to ask him, I'm like, dude, so at soundcheck, does Slayer ever play fucking Sweet Home Alabama, anything other than metal? And he's like, no, dude, they just do the metal thing. And I'm like, fuck, I'd lose my fucking shit if I was touring for decades and just having to go every day and not just once in a while go, hey, you guys want to fucking rock a Sweet Caroline just for the shit of it? Let's just do it. Come on,
Nice. I love that. That's why people need to listen to your shit, because I mean, that's it right there. I think music should be unique, and it should be like, that's the problem with metal nowadays. It's like they use this algebraic equation. This is how metal has to sound. But I think the key to great music is something that stands out, that's unique, and that you can show different sides of you. And it would be boring. Ollie from Bring Me the Horizon, they've been giving him so much shade lately for the different music. And he's like, hey, I don't want to write the same song over and over again,
Right.
And that's it right there. So tell everybody how they can check out your new video, Space Lord Symphony. That's badass. And how they can connect to you guys on socials, on the web, all that great shit.
Thanks, man. Yeah, we're Bullets and Octane. If you go to our Bullets and Octane official YouTube, you could check it out. This year alone, we've put out like a crazy amount, like 10 videos, 10 singles, just pumping out as much stuff as possible. Some is great, some is a little off, painted, pale, strange, but it's everything. It's everything that matters to us. So go to Bullets and Octane official YouTube, go to Bullets and Octane official Instagram. I'm always posting silly shit, my day-to-day weird walks and vamps between, jogging and weird shit, and then straight up just music stuff. And, I try to keep things honest. Go check it out. Space Lord Symphony, Bullets and Octane. We got a bunch of new cool things I wish I could talk about right now that I can't wait to talk to you hopefully about in another month or so. It's going to be it's going to be a really cool year, man. I'm very excited about it.
I love it. Let's do it. And I know you have an album coming out this year, to be determined, so that'll be cool. And man, they just got to check you guys out, because I like, as soon as I saw this video, I was like, man, that's badass. I got to interview these people. And so everybody needs to listen to you. And do you have any final words you want to leave the listeners with?
Keep an open heart, keep an open mind, always be a fan of everything music, and thanks for sticking around with, true artists and true people who struggle and put stuff out no matter what it takes. Just thank you for being a fan of all things music, all things rock and roll, everybody.
No better words have said. Thanks for your great music, and thanks for being on the Adventures of Pipe Man.
You got it. Thank you so much, brother.
Thank you for listening to the Adventures of Pipe Man on W4CY Radio.